Hello and welcome to the program. Now, it might just be deja vu for Nigeria if militants of the Niger Delta Avengers choose to make good on their latest threat to resume attacks on oil facilities in the oil-rich Delta region of the country. What are the demands of the militants this time around? They want the government to restructure the country and release all militants in the custody of security agencies. They say if those demands are not met immediately, they'll resume their attack any moment from now, and that the attacks this time would target the deep sea operations of oil companies in the Delta region. They also say they want the government to restructure the country. They even mentioned a massive oil deep sea platforms like the Bonga, Agbami, and others, of course. Now, the government has not responded to the threat yet, at least publicly, but there's no question that it would be taking this very seriously, considering the antecedents of the group. In 2016, the Niger Delta Avengers cut Nigeria's oil output by about half, with a series of attacks on oil facilities. That exacerbated the recession in the country at the time, and everyone felt the pinch as government revenue shrank drastically. The government eventually managed to strike a deal with the group, and they stopped the attacks. There's been relative peace since then, and the country's oil output is back up. Government revenue from oil is going up, and confidence is returning to the Nigerian economy. Foreign reserve is growing as well, and there's some stability in the foreign exchange market, as the Naira has been stable for quite a while now. But the resumption of these attacks could set everything backward for Nigeria, which still relies heavily on oil for the bulk of its forex earnings. Fact is, everyone, including those in the Niger Delta, would suffer should the militants go ahead to make good their threat. We certainly don't need this. Surely this is not the kind of thing the country wants at the moment. The country has just come out of recession, and oil output has gone up, and well, the country is recovering, so you just don't need this kind of thing at all. But joining me to discuss it further, I have Libros Oshoma, who's a lawyer and a public affairs analyst, and I also have Agba Jalingo, who's a public affairs analyst as well. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on the program. Libros, let me start with you. Surely this is not what the country needs at this time.
No, not at all. This is not what the country needs now. And then also the country should also know that this is not what it needs. And that's why, for me, I believe there should be equality and justice. But you cannot achieve that in an atmosphere of insecurity. And so two wrongs don't make a right. And if their belief in some quarters that, the government at the center is not fair to all parties concerned, but in driving at that fairness, you don't need to destroy your own, the little that you have, or the fact that, okay, yes, the country is making money from an environment, and so you need to create a system of chaos or insecurity to drive home a point. Because at the end of the day, the primary losers, both the primary and secondary loser of the results of your destruction, the primary losers will be your own people, and then maybe secondary losers also will be your own people, and then slightly maybe those in government, because whether you like it or not, National Assembly members withdraw salaries and allowances, whether there's money or not. The executive withdraw salaries and allowances, and government parastatals withdraw salaries. But the people, the ordinary civil servants, who has not been paid for some time, will further be impoverished. The ordinary farmer and the fisherman can't even go to fish because the environment will be further destroyed. And so I think this is, it's high time we begin to look inward, because I have said this at various fora. The issue of 13% derivation was not achieved overnight. The issue of the Niger Delta Development Commission, the Minister of Niger Delta, they were all products of negotiation. Exactly. And so the elders have said, look, allow us, interface. Some demands were made last time, and some of them have been met. Some are still ongoing. And so if you now want to marry the issue of the Fulani headsmen, the issue of restructuring in the country, you now want to drive it home with, what is the Niger Delta issue, and then call for, these issues to be met overnight, otherwise you will resume hostility. These are not issues you can, meet with a click of the finger. And so that's why I think it is time for us to sit back, look inward, even first and foremost, ask questions from ourselves. amongst ourselves, what have we done with little that we have? And then even if every other person in the country is being rascally, you know, we need to maintain our calm now, our cool now, to be able to achieve, you know, greatness. Even if we want to talk about restructuring, we should be able to provide an environment where peace will thrive, so that we'll be able to at least achieve development.
Jalingo, I mean, let's tell ourselves the truth. Fact is that if the Niger Delta Avengers, I mean, if the group chooses to go ahead with this, it affects everybody. I mean, it affects everybody. The last time in 2016 when they embarked on their attacks, I mean, we saw the country's oil production reduced by half. Now oil production is up. Everybody's feeling it. I mean, there's this positive feeling you have. I mean, it's affecting the economy positively, and it's for that reason why you've seen you know, groups like the World Bank make positive projections on Nigeria. But all of that will be set backward because of the monolithic nature of this economy. All of that will be set backwards if these guys choose to go ahead with this threat. And the question I want to ask you is, don't you think it's time there's a change of approach by this militant groups now in the Niger Delta? Because it appears the normal or modus operandi we had always known, what we've always become used to is issue a threat, carry out an attack, and then the government comes, calls a few people together, probably settles some people, and everybody goes back. It's back to the normal until when there's another issue again, then you issue the same threat, carry out some attacks, and then it just doesn't solve the problem.
Well, first and foremost, I don't know who the Avengers actually represent. It's a streak of argument I have always maintained, that whether you call them Mendo, call them Niger Delta Avengers, or call them whatever name you want to call them, they do not represent the interests of the Niger Delta. And I will explain what I mean. Within the Niger Delta region, there are more than 120 autonomous ethnic groups, including my own, where I come from, including Liberos' own, including the Jaws, including, name them, there are more than 200, like I said. In the Niger Delta alone, in Obudu alone, where I come from, we have 17 different dialects. We are all in the Niger Delta. Then one group of people, mostly one tribe, the Jaws. Because even if you go to Mend, 90% of them, if not 100% of them, are Ijo people. Niger Delta Avengers, they are Ijo people. One tribe, in the midst of over 200, they carry guns and they want to take their guns against the federal government. They say it's the Niger Delta Avengers, Niger Delta, movement for the Niger Delta. I don't know whether they are actually representing the interests of the Niger Delta. I have my doubts. That is a bloody lie. That is number one. And the second point is that the state must not allow people. Nobody, if you want to solve a problem, you don't solve it by saying that if you don't do this, I'm going to create violence. It is the weakness of the state that will allow any armed gang, to threaten the state with violence. If it were in normal circumstances, that should not happen. Because I believe he said it here that several things, milestones that we have achieved in the region, like the NDDC,
they were not achieved
through. And in any case, at what point do gangsters become freedom fighters? These are criminals. Who can actually measure empirically what these gunmen have contributed to the development of the region in the past 30 years? How can we measure it empirically? In any case, all of them, at best, what we can remember about them is that Asari collected money. As much as he collected, we don't have the right figures. But I know that at the point, the federal government gave him over 391 million naira. He went to Cotonou and built a nursery, primary, secondary school. He didn't even open one factory in the Niger Delta. Tompolo, the same thing. He went and bought a private jet. He bought a ship that is floating. I think the federal government has seized the ship. I don't know how all of that was supposed to employ his people. And then, of course, the governors spring up again. And then when you carry a gun, kill somebody, they make you an amanayabo or they make you a king. It has become fashionable to kill people. And when these criminals go haywire, they say they are fighting for the Niger Delta. It is when we come back to the Southwest, people who are freedom fighters are intellectuals. We saw people like them Gani Fayemi, we saw people like them Femi Falana, we saw people like Wolushu Nka, and then gunmen, criminals who are stealing oil, sabotaging the federal government, telling me that they are representing me. And from the Niger Delta, they do not represent my interests. This is a battle between one tribe in the whole of the Niger Delta, or possibly two. Because even if you go to Ondo, it is still the Jos. If you go to Akwa Ibom, maybe a few of Ibibio people, and then the rest of them. Then if you come to Cross River too, we have some people there. We have some people who call themselves Bakassi strike force.
Strike force.
And the rest of, but the Bakassi strike force have not said they want to blow up pipelines. But these same people who every time they say, if you don't give us what we want, we will go and blow pipelines. If you don't give us what we want, we'll go and blow pipelines. It's a battle between one tribe in the region versus the federal government. They are just using the name of the Niger Delta to blackmail the rest of us.
And something else, liberals, I wanted to talk about is the demands. I mean, the last time they came up with a 16-point demand, of course, some of those demands have been met. For instance, we saw what the National Assembly has done with the Maritime University, even though now the issue is there's this fight now between the Shekiris and the Ijos over the name of the place. Exactly. They just say it's Okaren Koko. The Shekiris are saying it's Okaren Gigo, whatever. I mean, that is a big issue now, I mean, between the two tribes. But now, apart from those 16-point demands, now they are saying restructure. That if you don't restructure, we're striking at any time, any moment from now. And that not only should you restructure, release any militants you have in detention. So it's difficult. I mean, each time, it's like each time they come up with new demands.
You see, DG, like Jalingo said, it is when a state is helpless and when states panders to the whims and caprices of inanities, so it becomes easy for criminal tendencies to dictate the pace in such states. And when a state compensates criminals and criminality, all in the name of amnesty,
which we have seen in this country,
you encourage even people that have capacity to carry guns that are not carrying guns, you encourage them to carry guns. And so it became the in thing. People now become rich men overnight by engaging in kidnapping, militancy. And I did also say that we know that all the people that claim to be freedom fighters before now, at the end of the day, some started driving Hummer Jeeps, Lord got contracts, and became overnight what you call stakeholders in the Nigerian project. And so the state will compensate. The Rivers State government gave amnesty also. What that means is, look, we can't actually solve this problem. Don't be surprised if not too long you hear the federal government extending amnesty to Fulani headsmen that are killing people. Not all headsmen are killers, but maybe some will be. Not recently also, we also heard that some Boko Haram members that have repented have been given amnesty. And so what you're doing is you're telling the people that you don't have the capacity to solve the problems, and they can make demands, whether reasonable or unreasonable. I think the government also needs to sit back, apart from the fact that the people of Niger Delta need to look inward and ask the questions. The little that we have been given, what have we done with it? Jalingo made mention of people fighting for freedom and who went to build universities in another country. We have senators who build houses in Abuja and Lagos and have no constituency offices in their senatorial zones. And we have governors that have made so much money on the sweat of the people. Some are ministers now. How much account have we demanded?
Let me just pause you there, and we'll take a short break. And when we come back, we'll continue this discussion. On DEJI360, we don't just ask the questions. What is wrong with amending the Constitution the way the National Assembly members have been doing it? We seek answers.
The Constitution is constituent.
Our problem is not lack of laws. Our problem is lack of the willpower to implement our laws.
Answers that provide clarity.
While we negotiate, we should try to make it a point that the girls must be complete.
The clarity you need to make informed judgment so that you can make the right decision and take action. People are saying it is you politicians that are responsible for this, that you are the reason why this is happening.
All these dollars that call themselves governors in this country.
I wish we had people like Tony at the National Assembly.
God forbid that I go to join that
DEJI360, providing clarity to issues.